Hi, I'm Feroz Khan, and welcome to Drag and Drop Low Code Unplugged, the podcast where we explore the game-changing impact of low code in software development. Join me in insightful conversations with IT leaders and passionate low code enthusiasts who are at the forefront of this digital evolution. Together, we'll explore how early adoption of low code is giving businesses a competitive edge on a global scale. We'll discuss its impact on software development, dissect its role in transforming businesses, and uncover the ways in which it's reshaping career trajectories. So whether you're a seasoned IT professional or a curious enthusiast, be sure to tune in as we share success stories and unravel the mysteries of low code. Subscribe now and stay tuned for a front row seat to the revolution that's shaping the future of technology. So let's go. Hi Russell, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. It's great to have you on the podcast. Thank you for agreeing to be a guest.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. Absolutely.
I followed your LinkedIn and your Twitter over the years, so it was good to finally meet you in Vegas and ask you to be a guest.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah, as well. I believe that was our last conversation in Las
Yes.
Vegas, where
Yeah,
I'm sure you had a good time. I had a good time
it
out
was a
there,
great
even though it
time.
was
Yeah.
work. We were kicking up a lot of dust, and yeah, thanks for following me on Twitter. I'm continuing to put as much
Yeah.
information out there as possible to
Yeah.
support the low code cause, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
good stuff.
Amazing. It'd be good to start with a bit about, for those who may not know who you are, a bit about yourself, a bit about your background.
Sure, yeah. So a little bit about myself. I've been in technology since probably the mid '90s. And very strange series of events brought me into technology. I was actually originally, studying computer science in school, but I went through a couple of business ventures and
Yeah.
really started to zone in on technology during the dot-com boom, right? And
Mm.
back then, we were so excited about what the future could hold. And, it was a lot of exciting times, late '90s, early
Yeah.
2000s. So as you can imagine, I've been through, quite a few different technologies when it comes to
Yep.
building, different web and mobile applications. So really at the heart of it, I'm a developer, right? I've always
Mm.
loved developing web and mobile applications. That's really my passion, right? I'm creative in that way. But then I've held a lot of different roles, held down a
Mm.
lot of different roles, even kind of crossing into training. I love, sharing technical knowledge, as well as sales. So I'm a senior solution architect now at OutSystems, really focusing on pre-sales and educating consumers about what OutSystems is and what the technology is. But really, at the end of the day, I really do love to be behind the keyboard building things, right? So that's kind of my passion. So that's a little bit of history there. I used to be deep into a couple of different stacks. I started as a really early on, started as a .NET
Yeah.
developer, traditional ASP and .NET.
Mm.
But then at one point in time, I spent about 4 or 5 years as a ColdFusion developer, a couple years, developing on the Java stack. So lots of different technologies kind of led me to OutSystems, and I discovered
Mm.
OutSystems about 7 years ago, and I really decided it was the future for me.
Yeah.
I like it.
When you heard about systems, was it you'd already heard of it, or was it when you were in the process of applying for the job? When did you kind of first hear of OutSystems?
So that's an interesting story. I was in Atlanta and I wasn't really seeking employment at the time, but a
Yeah.
recruiter found my resume online and gave me a call. And I believe it was like a Thursday or Friday. And he started telling me a little bit about OutSystems. And of course, my response was out who, never heard of it, you know. And so he said, well, listen, he said, why don't we do this? He said, I've seen your resume. I know you would be a good fit for this
Mm.
position. He said, we have a free version of the IDE. And he said, if you have a chance over the
Yeah.
weekend, just download the free version of the IDE, and I'm going to call you back on Monday, right? Give it the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Take a
Yeah.
look at what we have here, right? So it was an interesting series of events because it just so happened that weekend I didn't have a lot going on. The family was out of town. I
Yeah.
was at my house by myself. And so Friday night, I decided to give it a whirl, right? I downloaded the
Yeah.
IDE and I took this little 5-minute tutorial on building an app.
Yeah.
And uh, the next thing you know, I spend the whole weekend, right, in OutSystems. And so then by Sunday night, I had a mobile app up and running on
Wow.
OutSystems. And then on Monday, I was waiting for the guy's call back. You know, okay, and I was like, this is cool. We got to talk more about this, right? So that kind of sucked me in. It really was all about, you know, opening the IDE and working with
Yeah,
a little bit. And I thought, wow, you know, this could be what I'm looking for here, right, for
yeah,
development
yeah.
purposes. So that's how it
And when you
happened.
started, obviously you're a senior solutions architect now.
Mhm.
You know, what can you talk me through kind of the role you started with and how you've kind of now got to the role you're in?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, at the time, they were looking for someone to join the training team. And as I mentioned a second ago, I do have some experience in software training. I've always enjoyed that part of the industry. We were talking about this earlier,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so they were looking for a software, someone who could train the new customers on OutSystems. So I wasn't really interested in that specific job
yeah,
position. But the thing about training is it's a great door to get into an enterprise, right?
yeah,
Because nothing, you know, nothing is going to get you up to speed faster in a technology than having to teach it to somebody else, right?
yeah,
So I made a 2-year commitment to the training team, and I joined the training team, and that was an exciting run. Of course, I got to meet a lot of the new OutSystems customers and help
yeah.
them succeed early on in their application development. So that was exciting. And then I later on joined the SA team as a pre-sales solution architect. So it's been a good ride.
And when you were kind of, as you're a developer at heart, right? So when
Mhm.
you were kind of, playing around with the platform, and even though you enjoyed it, did you ever have a situation where you thought, oh, okay, yeah, there's some limitations, I don't have as much control as what I
Oh,
used to have.
absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. So it's an interesting learning curve without systems, and I sometimes I explain it like this. You know, it has its kind of ups and downs, but it's a power curve, right? It's a power curve of ups and downs. And when you first, I think most developers when they first start to develop, they find out systems to be very easy, right?
Mm,
It's very easy to get started, very, very easy to use the accelerators and the different tools that we have in the platform to build things very quickly. But a lot of that is, of course, template based, and it's built
yeah,
on, well, it's built on the ideal of being able to build very, very quickly.
yeah,
But a lot of it is, you know, it's kind of a canned framework within
mm,
the OutSystems stack, right? So you get started very quickly, and it's very powerful. You can build applications very, very fast and very easily. But then I think after a few weeks, then you kind of go off a cliff and realize, hey, you know what? There's some things here that are going to take a little bit more time to learn and figure out, right? Like,
mm,
how do I bring in an external identity provider? How do I integrate with this other system? So I think you go through ups and downs, but once you know kind of jump through a few hurdles, you realize, wow, you know what? At this point in time in OutSystems, I've realized that really there's nothing that I can't do. If you could do it, there's a way to do it in OutSystems,
yeah,
right? And then what you realize is, you know what? I'm also doing this faster than I've ever done this in my career,
yeah,
right? So I'm to the point now where, you know, I can build an application really, really um, 10 times faster than what I could do with any stack or framework that I've used in the past, right? And I know there's a lot of options out there, but I've really
mm,
found speed and agility to be what keeps me in OutSystems, if that makes sense.
yeah. And I'm interested now when you're doing the training. Obviously, you're training people who are new to the platform, right? So you're gonna have a room full of different opinions,
Yeah,
skeptics, and even though the business may have got out systems, doesn't mean all the developers are on board. Did you have some situations where you'd have people kind of really challenging what you're training them?
absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, I think that was one of the most exciting times in my career because in a lot of cases, you know, we refer to it as developer resistance, and I understand this, right? I'm a developer
Yeah,
at heart.
yeah,
You know, there was a time in my career where we would, you know, write code that was as complex as we possibly could, you know, so that we were the only developers that knew how to figure it out at the end of the day, right?
mm,
So you go through those stages in your career, right? And you know, I've had situations where developers came in, they're like, look, I'm just here because my boss made me be here today, you know, and there's
yeah,
a lot of skepticism coming in. But what's interesting is we run 5-day boot camps. And I can tell you that I've seen non-developers and developers come into a 5-day boot camp that I was training. Some of the most fierce developer resistance that you can
Yeah.
imagine. And what's interesting is that by day 3, you kind of see their mind open a little bit. And then by the
Yeah.
end of the week, you can see the wheels turning, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
As
Yeah.
they're realizing, hey, you know what? This is not just a toy app builder, right? This is
Mm.
really something that we could use and it could be really productive. So I like to say that OutSystems is kind of like a tiger in a cage. You don't have to prove it's a tiger. Just let him out
Yeah.
of the cage. It'll
Yeah.
prove
Yeah.
itself. You know what I mean? So I've seen that over and over again. And it's exciting to see that, that as developers get their hands dirty in the IDE and start to
Yeah.
build, they realize that there is a lot of power under the hood. And it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to always replace coding. I still
Yeah.
code sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just another very powerful tool in the toolbox, if that makes sense, right?
And that must for yourself. I think it must be great that when you're, especially when you've done a few sessions already.
Yeah.
When you started this training role, when you come into a room and they start like that, you must have this like, okay, well, I can't wait to see you on Wednesday and Friday, and your reaction, how it's going to be.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. And what's really interesting is you'll have the 10-year, 15-year veteran developer in the room, and
Yeah.
then a non-developer in the room,
Yeah.
and the non-developer is over here outpacing the developer sometimes
Yeah.
because the non-developer, they don't know what they're doing; they're just kind of
Yeah.
following the instructions. But
Mm.
eventually, they learn the concepts and they build very quickly. And then you have the developer that can be having an even more difficult time because it's just different, right? It's a different
Yeah.
environment from a coding environment. And so then it's interesting because the developers will see that and they're like, wow, this person's over here has got their
Yeah.
app. They're doing they're building it faster than I
Yeah.
am. I got to catch up,
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun, man. Training's it's a good experience. It's a lot of fun, and to see that light bulb go off and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
realize, hey, you know what? This really is a tool that can be extremely productive, and we can build
Mm.
a team around this. And even as a coder, if you understand the Microsoft
Yeah.
technologies. If you can write C# code, if you understand .NET Core, then you become the OutSystems MVP,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
can build those extensions and extend the platform and do things that some of the other junior or beginning developers can't do. So there's really room for everyone to develop in the
Yeah.
OutSystems platform, which is nice.
And it's like they say, like, you touched on it, that someone, obviously people who are non-developers can pick up low code and become an OutSystems developer. Probably a longer road to get there, but
Yeah,
with, people who have traditional development background, they can become a senior really fast within OutSystems.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen that over and over again for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
you've been at OutSystems 7 years, and you're meeting customers all the time, and even at the conferences, you were at the booth and kind of
hmm
talking to whoever comes up to you. You know, in your role, and over the years that you've worked for OutSystems, there's always releases, right? There's releases that come out. What do you think? Can you talk me through kind of one or two releases that they've released that you've felt, wow, this is going to be a real game changer for us when speaking to customers or prospects?
So absolutely. When I joined OutSystems, we were really on OutSystems version 10, right? And there was a lot of information about the additional mobile capabilities that we had there.
Mm.
And it was. Listen, I thought 10 was an amazing platform, to be
Yeah,
honest with you, right?
yeah, yeah,
So really, there's been a couple of huge, leaps forward for the OutSystems program platform, and one of those was from OutSystems 10 to 11. We moved over to reactive web, right? We tied in
yeah,
the reactive web with mobile, and that really kind of created this very easy way of developing applications for both mobile and web, right? And so that was kind of a huge step forward in OutSystems 11. We have React.js for both mobile and web
yeah,
front end, right? And then on, whenever you're developing, really, OutSystems 11 kind of tied the two in to where, if you're developing a web application, then you can develop a mobile application. If you can develop a mobile app, you can develop a web app, right? It's really congruent. Kind of everything just kind of came together so that we can develop for both, right, in a very strategic way. And then, of course, we have the release of ODC, which is really,
yes,
it's a build from the ground up. and it's really for building cloud native applications, right? So I'll let our viewers do your research on ODC, but
Yeah.
ODC is very, very exciting, right? It's where OutSystems is spending most of our R&D right now,
Yep.
building for the future. A lot of the new AI capabilities that you're going to
Yeah.
see are being driven into ODC. So those are really the two kind of milestones that I've seen working at OutSystems in the past few years, and it's really exciting. It's one thing I love about OutSystems is we are never sleeping at the wheel, right?
Yeah.
The teams over in Portugal and Lisbon, they're around the clock, man. They're looking at what's going to happen
Yeah.
next. Where do we need to go? And of course, a product of that is ODC and what we call Morpheus, which is soon to be released. So really exciting stuff. But yeah, those are probably the two biggest milestones and the most exciting times that I've had at OutSystems in the past couple of years as these releases have kind of become reality, right?
Yeah.
And there's always a little bit of a learning curve there, but what's nice too is that when OutSystems even when they bring about a major release, right, it's not really a very big jump from
Yeah.
one release to the other. So pretty nice.
Yeah. And in regards to kind of OutSystems, technology has been done kind of the one way for a very long time. A lot of people are used to kind of the traditional way, and then low code comes into the mix, and OutSystems is obviously one of the leaders in the space. How do you feel OutSystems has really kind of changed the landscape for customers who are looking to build these projects and have never thought about low code before in the past?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I've worked with a lot of different customers over the past 7 years. So there's a lot of case studies and just so many examples that I can put out there, right? But a couple that I think are very interesting, right? One is a bank, Key Bank. As a matter of fact, Dominic, who's the CTO of Key
Yes.
Bank, he's a champion, obviously a
Yeah.
spokesperson for OutSystems, and I was personally involved in that particular sale when we were working with them during the sales cycle. He did a lot of his own due diligence. They had a lot of legacy systems. They obviously have very, very high level experts on staff that were evaluating the program. They were deep into different automated processes. And so there was a lot to it. It wasn't just, hey, we have this one app, we want to build it
Yeah.
with something, let's look out there. So they did a lot of due diligence. And the first application that they rolled out was for, I believe it was for loan applications. And it was such a success that they've really been able to kind of tie in a lot of their systems. And now, one of the quotes that you'll hear from Dominic is he says, you know what, I haven't heard the word no, I can't do it in 2 years. Since we
Wow.
adopted OutSystems, I haven't heard no, we can't do it, right? We always find a path to yes, right? So very exciting stuff. And then another big one is, of course, Toyota of Japan. They've been
Yeah.
on over 10-year
Yeah.
journey,
I
with
saw. Yeah.
OutSystems. We just had a marketing campaign around Toyota. Just a couple of stats: 30% reduction in work hours without systems, right? They've got over, I think it's like 23 different groups in Toyota that use OutSystems. It's the go-to platform for building applications, and they've delivered over 70 projects with OutSystems, right? So
Wow.
just a huge success story. But really, the reality is that that reduction in work hours, right? 30%. What we're talking about is much higher productivity, right,
Yeah.
with less people to actually do the work, right? So that's really where the value is for a lot of our customers. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's amazing. And
Mhm.
in when you're kind of speaking to customers, is there kind of any common kind of pain points that you hear that it's just something that's regularly coming up where obviously OutSystems thinks about all the pain points companies are having. That's how they can enhance the platform, right?
Absolutely. And it typically kind of settles into what I've seen is it kind of settles into two different areas, right? And one of those areas really is about the traditional ways of building applications, right?
Yeah.
So, writing code and line by line code development is cumbersome, it's very slow, and there's a lack of talent out there now, right? So, a lot of the older developers that are retiring now, they don't have replacements for these developers. It's very difficult to find these, developers that can kind of take their place in the marketplace on these legacy systems. But then on the other side, there's a lot of other tools out there that people are using to build
Yeah.
applications. So we have this umbrella where, everybody's low code now. We've got this low code component, or we've got,
Yeah.
some type of process flow app that we can build things. And what we find in a lot of cases is that some of our new customers, they have chosen other ways of building applications that aren't necessarily line by line code, bespoke
Mhm.
applications. But they're building on other platforms and other cloud services, which in some cases are great. But when they typically come to OutSystems, it's because they've kind of hit a brick wall with
Yeah.
those other technologies, right? So they've spent a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, invested a ton of money, retrained their people on how to use these platforms or these cloud services. And then ultimately, a year, 2 years down the road, they find, wow, you know what? We really can't do what we need to do here. We've got to find something more flexible. But they're still looking for that productivity
Yeah.
boost, right? And so that's where they typically seek out OutSystems, because once again, there's no wall. With OutSystems,
Yeah.
whatever app you can think of, you can build it, and then you're never going to get to that point where you just can't do what you need to do in
Yeah.
OutSystems. It just doesn't happen. So
Yeah.
that's what we've
And
seen a
and
lot.
and since you've been at the business for 7 years, it's do you feel, low code 7 years ago, even though it was around and the platform was around, I think it was less known globally, right?
Yeah.
And do you feel over the time, the conversations you have, there's more people who are aware of one, low code, and two, just out systems based on when you first started? There's a bit more of, well, what is low code? Let's start with what is low code, rather than now you just can go straight into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So even at the event, right, where we
Yeah,
last spoke and we
yeah,
met, Las Vegas, right, is
yeah,
a Gartner event, right? So we were at these events, we're out there, and that's also one of my favorite things to do is to be out there at different events and meeting developers and meeting people who are potential
yeah,
customers of OutSystems, right? Whether that's a CTO or a CEO or a developer. And certainly, just within the past 3 to 5 years, I see our work paying off, right? We're starting to become a little bit more, prevalent in the
mm,
marketplace. But low code in general, I think,
yeah,
is what people are starting to recognize. Where when I first joined OutSystems, there it really was a little bit more difficult, right, to kind of open that
yeah,
conversation. And we would have to explain, okay, let me explain exactly what low code is. And listen, we had tools similar to OutSystems back in the 90s, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah,
had drag and drop tools.
yeah,
And there's been different ways in which the ideas behind OutSystems have been implemented. Just my opinion, but the the big difference with OutSystems is we just implemented it better, right? And so
yeah,
so we've got this card in the deck. It's an incredible platform, but what we're finding is less and less we're having to explain what low code is,
yeah,
right? So people come up to us at conferences, or they recognize OutSystems and say, yeah, no, you don't have to explain low code,
yeah,
just
yeah,
tell us
yeah,
what you have new, right?
yeah,
Or they
yeah,
may be in the position where they're like, we talked to you 2 years ago and we wanted to buy then, but we got shut down because of this or that. The project
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
go, the funding. But what do you have new? Right? What can we buy now? Right? So they're
yeah,
always
yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah,
looking for the right time to jump in,
yeah,
and because it's not always the right time, right? We have the right
yeah,
platform, and it's probably the right platform for your use case or the applications you want to build. But there's a timing component to it as well, right? Where there
yeah,
may be other things going on where they're trying to do certain things within the
sure.
enterprise before they start to modernize or build new apps. So sometimes it's about timing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And talking about, the conference in Vegas, it was very, I attended a lot of sessions and it was very AI heavy,
Yeah.
over the,
Yeah.
the 3 days. And, you were doing demos and talking to people about AI agent builder, and things like that. You
Yeah.
know, I'm interested to know kind of, and I remember like all the sessions that were AI focused were full, right? And then
Yeah.
all the other ones were a bit kind of just a few people here and there. I'm keen to hear kind of your view on, AI and the future of low code with AI, because there's this thing that okay, well, with AI, are you going to need low code? But I'm keen to hear kind of your views on that, and also when you're at these conferences, are they kind of
Mhm.
conversations that people are having with you?
Absolutely. So you're right. It's exciting times because we have this, new shiny
Yeah,
thing here, right? AI, and everyone's excited about the potential of AI. If you've spent any time really, working in the various technologies, you see that, there are gaps, and there's a long way there's a long way to the finish line here, but the future is so exciting. And at OutSystems, really, we kind of have a strategy, right? We're not new to the AI game. We've been, kind of shifting efforts towards that over the last 7 years. We have, I think, 5 or 6 patents now when it comes to artificial intelligence that's implemented in our systems. And really, we have AI within the OutSystems platform in 3 different areas, right? So we have tools that are already built into the platform that can guide and help the developer. These are artificial intelligence based tools that actually kind of take a look at the different patterns as you're developing applications and utilize those patterns to help guide developers. And we're going to continue investing in that, right? So then we have a lot of tools that you can utilize to leverage AI technologies that are out there, right? So we have a chat GPT component on the Forge. You can download that and you can bring it into an application that you're building in OutSystems very easily. So at the end of the day, we're still a tool for building web and mobile apps, right? We just make it easier for our developers to leverage these AI tools. Now, one of the third area, one of the most exciting areas, once you have your applications built in OutSystems, we also have tools that are AI driven for managing and maintaining those applications over time. So there's a lot of different ways in which we're implementing AI. Once again, at the end of the day, we are a platform for building web and mobile applications, right? So the exciting thing, though, is that we are implementing AI to make it easier for developers to add these features, these AI driven features, not only to the apps that they build, but also leverage these AI technologies to build applications faster and easier than they've ever been able to before. And if you want to, really tune into the future at OutSystems, stay tuned, right? Over the next few months, we'll be talking more about Morpheus. If you're planning on going to the One Conference in Amsterdam, Morpheus is a game changer, right? So it's really going to be our latest build of how we're implementing AI for the purpose of building, the developers can build applications faster than ever, and it's an AI-driven workflow. So it's really exciting stuff going on with that. Absolutely, no doubt.
I'm guessing that will be your new kind of shiny toy for Vegas next year.
Yes, absolutely.
Everyone's asking you, what have you got new? That will be your new kind of selling point.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, when you were there this year and we met, I was showing a preview of Morpheus, but it's a very, very early on kind of beta preview. It certainly has been refined. It's been, we've invested a lot in that particular technology. You'll see more at the One Conference if you're going there, or in the, some of the recordings there. Yeah. But yeah, surely next year you're going to be seeing that as we'll be demoing that. It's incredibly powerful technology, right, for building web and mobile apps. So it's exciting times.
Exciting times, definitely.
No doubt about
it. As someone who's kind of come from the traditional background, and, we've been talking about a lot about skeptics and things like that, and there's still skeptics around, all the time. There'll always be skeptics, in every organization you go to, or even developers when you try to tell them, have you considered a career with low code? What would be your message to those who are still very skeptical of low code?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it depends on who I'm speaking with, right? What their role is in the enterprise, right? Because I may address a developer a little bit differently from, a CTO. So I think, in general, one of the responses that I use a lot is, honestly, I was developing applications back in 1994, okay, 95, right, 96. And what's interesting is that I was pushing code, right? I was writing lines and lines of code. And we will acquire new customers and onboard those new customers at OutSystems. And when we go on deck with their developers, we see that they are literally doing the same thing that I was doing back in the mid 90s. You know what I mean? And so the question really comes about, at what point are you going to step into the future, right? At what point, it's interesting because technology, we're known to disrupt business and disrupt ordinary life and disrupt, and make change, right? But then we see within our own, within the technology businesses and the way it's being implemented, we're still doing the same things that we were doing back in the
Yeah.
mid 90s, right? So, at the end of the day, it's like, look, I understand being skeptical, but at what point in time are you going to step into the future and leverage the tools that are there, right? So that's one thing. And then the other one is, back to what I said earlier, if you're a developer, I understand because you've spent a lot of time investing in your skills.
Yeah.
We're a lot of times we're kind of reluctant to change. We've got a comfortable life, right? We're pushing code, we're getting
Yeah.
paid. It's difficult to change, but once again, I would suggest just doing exactly what I did. Download the IDE and give it a spin, right? Because what I found is that working in OutSystems, the actual work, right? When I get up and I start to develop an application at 8 o'clock in the morning, the day flies by because I enjoy working in the platform.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to actually build applications and OutSystems. The IDE, the way it's designed, it really is designed for the developer. And so the more you work in it, I think the more you enjoy working in the platform from the developer perspective. So it's a couple things to leave you with there. Try it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when, for me, as someone who speaks to developers all the time, I've never come across an unhappy developer who's not happy developing all
Right.
day, when they're using low code, where,
Yeah,
I've spoken to traditional developers who have constant headaches about projects and things going wrong,
that's right.
changes,
Yeah,
where obviously with low code, even if there's a pushback on something or something needs to be changed, it's quite an easy fix compared to the traditional
absolutely.
methods.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to mention any of them, but I have worked in some tough technologies that make the day long. You know what I mean? So when you wake up and you start to build an app and then all of a sudden it's like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon and the day just flew by, that's when hey, you know what? This has been a good experience, right? Because it
Yeah.
goes, when you're having headaches and dealing with problems, the day tends to go by slower, right? So that's
Yeah.
when you know that, hey, you know what? I got this pretty good environment that I'm working in. I like this.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, and you get results very quickly with OutSystems, right? So there's
Yeah.
this immediate gratification, if you will, because it is fast. And
Yeah.
what's really nice is I started my career as a designer, as a web designer, and
Yeah.
so I love the front end technology. And one of the great things is you can really get into the OutSystems platform and make those applications look great. They can have the look and feel that you need, and they can really pick up the brand and pick up. I'm a very visual person, right? And I think a lot of customers are, right. So if as you're working on the front end, and even on that, we have to kind of get into the CSS or
Yeah.
whatever. It's pretty easy to do in OutSystems, and you get results very very quick. So it's a
Yeah.
nice environment, no doubt.
And I guess, when you're, as especially in your role, when you're in front of a new customer, I guess it's great to be, presenting a platform like OutSystems, because in most cases, I'm guessing you can present something to them in that meeting in a matter of minutes. You can, if they've got an idea, you can kind of do a POC really quick.
Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, just did it a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Okay.
We just did this. I drove up. I'm in Houston, Texas. Drove up to Austin, Texas. Right. We were working with a state government agency, and instead of doing an online Zoom meeting, they said, "Hey, you know what? You guys are close by. Why don't you come up? We'll have some. We'll have some lunch. We'll
Yeah.
talk about OutSystems." Right. And so we had, from I think 9 until 12 o'clock that morning. We had like a 3-hour session,
Yeah.
and they basically laid out a few business requirements. They had this use case. They said, we're thinking about doing this. We want to do it without systems. And so can you kind of tell us how we could do that? And it was so cool because I said, look, not only can I tell you how to do it, we could do it this morning. You know what I mean? So like
Nice.
three
Yeah.
hours
Yeah. Yeah.
later, we had a
Yeah.
prototype pretty much up and running with some data, some real data.
Wow.
And so, needless to say, they bought. They were like, "Yeah, this is exactly what we need," right? So, yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to show the power of the platform, right, and the speed and the agility, especially when you can do that in person, right? Once
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
it's you see that light bulb off, and they start thinking. When
Yeah.
we left that day, they're thinking, not only can we do that app,
We
but
can
we
do
could
other
do this
things.
app.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got
Yeah.
about this solves like 6 or 7 other problems that we're having
Yeah.
right now. So
Yeah.
it's great to see that, man. It's great to see people thinking about how they can be successful,
Yeah.
right? And that's really what it's all about. I mean, I'm not kidding. I have seen OutSystems change people's lives, literally.
Yeah.
change people's lives. And I don't mean just from a business perspective. I've seen people come in and change their life. They're, on a career to nowhere, right? On a career
Yeah.
path to nowhere.
Yeah.
They come in, learn OutSystems, become an OutSystems developer, and literally it changes their life, man.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
become successful. It trickles down to success in their family. And I know this
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but I've literally seen this
Yeah.
over 7 years. So not just success for our customers, but I've seen success for our developers, that really have made significant changes in their life, right? And what they do on a daily basis, and how they, define success in their career, right? So it's been an exciting run, man, and I have high expectations for,
Yeah.
the next few years. I think we're going to continue a good run. I really believe
Amazing.
that. Yeah.
Amazing. And, just a final note, is there anything, for you personally or anything, we can look forward to, you're looking forward to, looking to achieve, or any goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's been nice about OutSystems is that we are aligned with a lot of different other technology organizations, right? So, our platform runs on AWS.
Yeah.
So that's an exciting event that I like to go to, is AWS reInvent, right? So a lot of the things that we're doing with AWS, very, very exciting, kind of behind the scenes, if you will.
Mm.
But also, coming up, we have the One Conference next month, which I'm
Yeah.
very, very excited about, because we're going to unveil, not only Morpheus and what we've done with that, but a lot of, other things that have
Yeah.
been going on behind the scenes, at OutSystems. And so that, to kind of put that all in perspective, I'm really looking forward to 2025, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the hard work that we've been doing is all coming together at the end of
Yeah.
this year. It really is. We're going to have, and that kind of plays out with what we've been investing in ODC,
Yeah.
what you can do with ODC, and Morpheus, and then a lot of the alignment that we have with, some of our other, partners and vendors. And we've caught. Hey, listen, I'll be true. We've caught some flack, right? Because
Yeah.
I think we've kind of pre-introduced Morpheus like last year, I think it was, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
people saw a glimpse under the hood, but then they didn't
Yeah, that
have
was
it.
in Denver, wasn't it? I think it was released in
Yeah,
Denver. Yeah.
I think so, right? But we still don't have
Yeah.
it, right? So, oh, look, you showed
Yeah.
us this
What's
really
going on?
cool
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, what's going on, man? I mean, what the heck, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little frustrating, right? But you know what? You have to be patient, right?
Yeah.
Because the best things come to those who are patient, and so I'm,
Exactly.
very excited about 2025, because I think a lot of our hard work is going to kind of come together,
Yeah.
and really present a platform to our customers, that is just bar none, man. I mean, we're
Yeah.
we're basically gonna leapfrog anything that you can really, use to manage your low code factory, right? And build web
Yeah.
and mobile applications, and build a center of excellence, right?
Yeah.
Within your organization, so that you can be on that trajectory that Toyota has been on,
Yeah.
and really, really, see the productivity go up, and see the return, big returns, right? See the return that's going to be
Yeah.
higher than ever when it comes to that type of, implementation. So excited about next year. I think 2025 is going to be a good year for me and
Yeah.
OutSystems and YouTube,
Amazing.
actually.
Yeah, hopefully,
For
yeah.
sure. No
Amazing. Well,
doubt.
I appreciate you taking the time, Russell. It was really great to talk to you and, hear
Sure.
about your journey, hear about, the things you're doing, the things the organization's doing, and, like you said, exciting times ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much for inviting me. And
No, I
hopefully
appreciate it.
we'll see each other again too in the future,
Definitely.
man, here in person. All right.
Definitely.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Take
Russell.
care. Mhm.
Thank you for listening to today's episode, which is brought to you by iTrack. We are a leading staffing firm that solely specializes in supplying both contract and permanent low-code professionals to organizations globally. Navigating the niche landscape of the low-code market requires the best talent, and we recognize its critical importance for our clients. Whether you're a company looking to strengthen your team, an individual seeking the next career move, or someone entirely new to the world of low-code, we're here for you. Our extensive experience and in-depth market knowledge enables us to quickly pinpoint the ideal candidates while offering expert advice and support at every stage of your low-code journey. Reach out to us through our website or connect with me directly on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to assist you. Thank you once again for joining us today. We'll be back next week with another insightful episode. Until then, take care.